Imagine an absolutely unsolvable puzzle. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into what is literally one of the most baffling locked room mysteries in modern history. We're looking at the true story of Gareth Williams. It's a case that's fascinated investigators, intelligence agencies, and the public for well over a decade now. And yet it leaves us with this staggering puzzle that, incredibly, remains officially unsolved to this very day. Let's just anchor our entire analysis right off the bat on one central, honestly impossible question. How does a highly trained intelligence officer end up locked inside his own bag? Just keep that paradox right in the back of your mind as we walk through the evidence together. Because as you'll see, every single answer we try to apply to this mystery, it just seems to create another massive contradiction. We gotta start at the shocking discovery itself. August 23rd, 2010. Inside a central London flat, one specifically used to house security service staff, mind you, authorities made a really grim find. The naked body of a 31-year-old MI6 codebreaker was discovered curled up inside a red sports hold-all, just sitting there right in the bathtub. The bag was padlocked shut from the outside. But here's the totally bizarre detail that kind of sets the tone for the whole shebang. The key to that padlock was resting directly beneath his body, inside the bag. And he'd already been missing for over a week. So who exactly are we talking about here? Well, Gareth Williams wasn't exactly your average agent. He was this brilliant Welsh mathematical prodigy. Spoke Welsh as his first language, and get this, he actually completed university at just 17 years old. He rapidly climbed the ranks of British intelligence, starting out as a junior analyst for GCHQ before being seconded to MI6, the secret intelligence service, back in the spring of 2009. But he was a super private guy. He really didn't like the whole SIS rat race, the flashy cars, the post-work drinking culture. He was a keen cyclist, he wanted out, and he had actually arranged to return to the quiet countryside just weeks before he vanished. Now, his background wasn't just, routine desk analysis. He was deeply involved in some really high-stakes operations. Williams had been working closely with the U.S. National Security Agency to penetrate international hacking networks. And two senior British police sources actually confirmed his active operational work specifically concerned Russia. He was tracing money laundering routes used by organized crime groups, including Moscow-based mafia cells. Obviously, this sets a very serious, very dangerous backdrop to his sudden disappearance. To really wrap our heads around the sheer procedural impossibility of this crime scene, we need to talk about the number 400. During the investigation, authorities actually brought in two professional escape artists. Their task? Try to lock themselves in an identical sports bag from the inside. They failed 400 separate times. 400! The overwhelming weight of evidence here strongly suggested that Gareth could not have possibly locked that bag himself. Faced with this crazy puzzle, authorities tried to narrow the situation down to two logical paths. A police spokesperson laid out the dilemma pretty perfectly. They stated that he either got into the bag voluntarily while alive, or, well, he was unconscious and placed in the bag by someone else, right? Seems like a pretty simple binary choice. Yet, as we'll see in just a second, the forensic reality aggressively contradicts both of these paths. Just try to stack these medical and forensic oddities in your mind for a minute. If he was placed in the bag unconscious, you'd expect to find traces of sedatives, right? Yet absolutely zero drugs or poisons were found in his system. None. Okay, so what if he got into the bag voluntarily while alive? Well, a pathologist testified he would have been overcome by hypercapnia, basically dangerously elevated carbon dioxide levels, in just 2 or 3 minutes. And to create an absolute forensic paradox, there were no fingerprints found on the bag, none on the padlock, and no gloves were discovered inside the bag to even explain that lack of prints. It's wild. And what's truly chilling is how the physical state of the apartment heavily suggests a professional cleanup, rather than some chaotic solo accident. Check this out. The flat's door and locks had been completely removed before forensic experts even arrived, making it impossible to check for forced entry. The apartment's heating had been left cranked up in the middle of August. That accelerated decomposition and completely destroyed critical timeline evidence. Plus, all the surfaces around the bathtub, the walls, everything wiped completely pristine. Like the coroner noted, if this was just a solo experiment gone wrong, he would have had absolutely zero reason to meticulously erase his own footprints. Adding to all that unease, we have the lingering loose threads of the unidentified. Investigators actually found inconclusive DNA fragments belonging to two different unknown people right on the bag itself. Furthermore, police ended up releasing an EFIT composite image of two unidentifiable people who had been spotted entering the communal entrance of his building just weeks before his death. The family's lawyer heavily suggested a second person was present or had broken in, but definitive forensic proof? It's remained totally elusive. Now, during the inquest, some highly unusual personal items were uncovered in his flat, and this instantly ignited a firestorm of sensationalized public and tabloid speculation. We're talking makeup, wigs, 26 pairs of women's shoes, around $32,000 worth of women's clothing, and a video of him dancing naked. The media immediately latched onto these items, spinning up this massive whirlwind of salacious theories about his private life, which completely distracted from the actual forensic impossibilities of the case. But honestly, if we want to solve this, we have to look right past the tabloids. And that's exactly what Coroner Fiona Wilcox did. She firmly demystified the rumors with a very direct statement, explicitly rejecting theories that his death stemmed from autoerotic activity, bondage, or cross-dressing. She pointed out that Gareth was found naked in a bag, not cross-dressed or in high heels, and that we absolutely must not conflate these discovered items with the actual cause of his unnatural death. Grounding this back in reality, his family and friends provided some much-needed context here. Williams was a deeply private guy, yes, but he was also known to be super generous and had a really strong interest in Japanese anime and comic books. His sister explained that the clothing and wigs were actually far more consistent with cosplay costumes for attending manga conventions. So it was just an innocent hobby of a quiet mathematician blown totally out of proportion by the outside world.
So when you clear away all those red herrings, you're left staring at a much broader, much more chilling theory. That his high-level work tracking Russian money laundering, it finally caught up with him. A former KGB agent who defected to Britain, Boris Karpichkov, actually claimed in interviews that his sources in Russia stated the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, the SVR, was directly responsible for Williams' death. And while it's unproven, it aligns perfectly with his known espionage targets. And honestly, it's never been definitively disproven. The inquest also brought to light some staggering agency failures. I mean, a true tragedy of errors that sparked intense distrust and made people wonder if something much darker was being quietly covered up by his own employers. Think about this. MI6 waited a full week to report one of their own officers missing. A week! Then, a critical DNA mix-up happened with the forensics team. His own colleagues never even provided formal statements. And MI6 severely delayed handing vital evidence over to Scotland Yard. The coroner just stated plainly that many agencies fell incredibly short here. So, where does all this leave us? Basically, with an absolute clash of authority. Back in 2012, the coroner's inquest concluded the death was unnatural and likely criminally mediated, pointing really strongly to a third party locking that bag. But then, following years of reinvestigation and a final forensic review in 2023, the Metropolitan Police concluded he most likely died alone in an accidental death, with absolutely no third party involved. Let that sink in. Over a decade later, the two major British investigations reached completely opposite, totally irreconcilable conclusions about the exact same evidence. But hey, beyond the espionage theories, the locked bag, and the forensic puzzles, we really need to remember the emotional core of this story. Like the Williams family beautifully stated, to lose a son and a brother at any time is a tragedy. To lose a son and brother in such circumstances only compounds the tragedy. They are a real family left in permanent limbo, forced to navigate their heavy grief alongside these staggering official contradictions. I want to leave you with this final thought to weigh for yourself. If this really was a solo accident, why on earth would a highly trained intelligence officer, someone whose entire career relied on absolute precision and risk awareness, engage in an impossible lethal stunt? And if it was murder, how did the killer completely vanish into thin air without leaving a single fingerprint behind? Honestly, how do you solve a puzzle where every single piece contradicts the one right next to it? Thank you for exploring this mystery with me today in this explainer. Keep wondering and never stop questioning the impossible.